Welcome to the first Digital Wealth Club Meet. My name is Rena Osemi, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Zedcrest Wealth. The latest statistics show that inflation in Nigeria is now 33.95%, and food inflation is at an all-time high of 40.66%. These stats show that caring for your money is now more important than ever. At Zedcrest Wealth, our mission is to simplify wealth creation, which is why we have launched this club specifically for you. These club meets will happen once a quarter, digitally and or physically, and we hope to provide you with the best options for investing your money and growing your wealth. We are excited to have you on this journey with us. With this, allow me to welcome our research and portfolio management team to walk you through the opportunities we think you should consider. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you at our next event.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the first iteration of the Digital Wealth Club hosted by Zedcrest Wealth. My name is Samuel Aladibaye. I would be our host for the first iteration. I represent the Research and Portfolio Management Department, and I'll be taking us through the first presentation of this meet. So what's our vision at Zedcrest Wealth, right? Our vision is to be the preeminent asset manager of choice in Africa by simplifying wealth from creation to distribution for all. Our mission, demystifying wealth creation by showing our clients where the opportunities are using superior insights and technology. Our values, the acronym STRIPE make up our values, starting with social responsibility, moving on to trust, then resilience, innovation, professionalism, and last but not the least, excellence. Now, we're going to kick off this presentation with a review of the macroeconomic events that we've seen in both the Nigerian and global markets. And for those who are wondering, there would be opportunities to toss in your questions and ask questions based on the presentation, or even ask questions based on personal finance at the end or towards the end of this presentation. So our review for the first half of the year. So starting with Nigeria, right? Major events in Nigeria, we saw our Q1, that's the first quarter of 2024 GDP grow at a slower pace than last quarter, which was Q4 2023. And our GDP, which means gross domestic products, expanded at 2.98%, meaning that spending in the economy grew by 2.98% from last quarter. That's towards the last 3 months of last year. We also saw an upward trend in headline core and food inflation. So for those that do not know what this means, right? We always hear the word inflation being tossed around, but what does it really mean? And essentially, it just means the rate at which something has moved up in price. So when you say inflation in terms of inflation in an economy now, you can give basic examples like how much did you used to pay for Gary last year and how much have you paid? I mean, if you used to pay 50 now for Gary last year and this year you're paying 100 now, it means that it has inflated by 100%, right? That's the rate at which the price has increased. And we're talking about looking at headline core and food inflation and bringing this more to home. What does this mean? So headline inflation basically tells you how much has the economy as a whole, how much has prices increased as a whole in the economy. So that's where you have your food, you have your energy, which is essentially your oil and gas, you have your transports, you have things that you're paying for lights, things that you're paying for even down to your tables and chairs. And headline inflation has increased, currently sits at 33.95% year on year, according to the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, which basically tells you that, okay, the rate at which prices have increased on a general overview of the economy has risen by 33.95%. And this is altogether is about 5.03% from where it was at December, a 5.03% increase. Your core inflation aims to tell you that, okay, how much has price increased in your economy besides food and energy? So that essentially means, okay, I'm looking at how much the rate of prices has increased in the entire economy without looking at food and energy, because these are very, very volatile aspects of the economy. Like you can see a very, very high increase in your food inflation and to just drop the entire headline inflation upwards when that's not really telling the true story. So core inflation, like the word says, your core inflation, how much has the core aspect of your economy actually moved? And we're seeing that core inflation has ticked up by, or currently sits at 27.04%. And this is slightly slower than the way headline inflation has moved, because if you recall, I said your headline inflation has moved so far this year up by 5.03%. But when you're looking at core inflation, it has only moved up from December to now by 3.98% to the 27.04%. Now, looking at food, right? If you recall earlier, I said food was a very, very volatile aspect of the economy, and it might be a factor that drags your headline inflation upwards, and which has been a true case in Nigeria. So you can see in the chart to your left, your food inflation sits as high as 40.66% and has added this year alone 6.73%. So it means that food inflation has grown faster than headline and faster than core. And it's a major aspect of the economy where you have seen that, okay, prices have really increased. And even without you even seeing this, I mean, I'm sure we all go to the market and we know how much we used to pay for stuff a year ago and how much we're now paying now and how much our wallets are basically crying for help. And also in the looking at another event in H1, I mean, a tool that, for those of us that are not really familiar with economy, a tool that the central banks typically use to combat inflation is to raise interest rates. And you're raising interest rates because you're trying to attract money away from the system into the banks so that it does not circulate, because a very, very major or a very basic driver of inflation is money in circulation, right? And when CBN hikes interest rates, it's in a bid to combat high inflation. And this year so far, we've seen CBN hike interest rates by 750 basis points. What do basis points mean? I mean, if you watch your CNBC or you watch your Wall Street, you probably hear traders talking about this move by these basis points or the likes. And what does this essentially mean, right? If you take it down to the mathematics of it, 100 basis points means 1%. So when you say 200 basis points, it means 2%. It's just a way of representing numbers. So when I talk about 750 basis points, just divided by 100. What does that mean? It means that so far this year, the CBN has raised interest rates from where it was as at December by 7.5% to 26.25% to combat this inflation that we're talking about. And we've seen that whilst inflation is still like increasing at to high levels, we're seeing that the rate at which it has increased has kind of slowed down. So like if you look at 2 months ago, the rate at which inflation was increasing, that's your headline, was increasing month on month, was probably adding like an extra 1% or 1.5%. But so far we've seen it's kind of slowed down in the rate at which it's increasing towards like 49 basis points, which essentially means less than 1%, right? 0.49 basis points and the likes. Another thing that we noticed in H1, that's the first half of 2024, was that looking at the equity market, right? I know we've heard about the banking recapitalization and how banking stocks are not doing so well and they're in the red territory in terms of returns. But so far this year, the all-share index, which aims to track the performance of the stock market, is up over 35%. And what has been the major driver for this? It's your oil and gas and insurance sector. We've seen the oil and gas index post returns of north of 30%, largely due to profits in the oil and gas sector. So you've seen Oando, Total, and the likes all record large profits after taxes, especially your net income, and you're seeing very, very large positive sentiments on their stock. We've also seen the insurance and industrial sector do well, with the industrial sector posting gains north of 70% so far this year. And this has all helped to push the Nigerian equity market upwards as a whole, despite the bearish sentiment. Bearish means pessimistic. People are not really selling sentiments, essentially, in the banking sector. So last but not least, we've also noticed this is not even new information to anybody, right? The Naira has depreciated, and it has depreciated by 7% against the dollar. And we've noticed this in 2024, the first half, where we've seen Naira go from somewhere around 900 Naira towards the end of last year to as high as 1,500 in the official markets. Also now taking our view towards the global markets, right? What have we seen? And given the progress seen in combating inflation in some economies, right? Because we're not the only ones, we're complaining about inflation in Nigeria, but we're not the only ones that this thing is pinching. We're seeing inflation in other African countries. We're seeing inflation in the US. We're seeing inflation in the UK, in Europe, in China, and the likes. And so far, we've seen inflation we've seen progress in inflation in the global economy sort of come down. And we've been seeing this trend because, like I said, the Nigerian government also took to hiking interest rates. And some of these central banks have also, that's central banks in the global economy now, like your European Central Bank, your Bank of Canada, your Federal Reserve in the US, as they call it, have also done the same thing to hike interest rates. If you look at the chart to your to the left of your screen, you would see that the US NPR, or the US Fed funds rate, as which they call it, is currently 5.5%. And the yellow line shows you where inflation is currently at 3.3%. And they've kept their interest rates that high to try and combat these inflationary pressures that we're seeing. Although in this same first half of the year, we've seen some central banks like the European Central Bank and the Bank of Canada cut their interest rates by 25 basis points to be exact, because like I said, you don't want to keep your interest rate too high for too long and stifle or basically strangulate your economy, because there's no point if your inflation is coming down and you're leaving interest rates high to just continue taking money out of the system when you need money to actually grow your economy. Then another event that we've also seen in the first half of the year, or we've noticed, was the AI enthusiasm. So we've seen the growth story in the US equity markets, where we've seen gains on the stock like NVIDIA. I mean, I have friends that talk about NVIDIA all the time, and everybody's like, hope we're not getting in too late, hope we're not getting in too early, what's happening with this? And it's basically the story that has been prevalent in the equity markets in the United States of America, where we've seen gains on the S&P 500, which aims to replicate the performance of top 500 companies in the US, return as high as 15.5%. We've seen the NASDAQ Composites, which is also another index in the US equity market, but this tends to track the performance of growth stocks, where you have your NVIDIA, you have the likes of your Meta platforms, which is essentially Facebook, WhatsApp, and the likes. You have the likes of Tesla and the likes, return as high as 20.58%. And you also have the Dow Jones Industrial Average, not doing as well as its brothers and sisters, which are the S&P and the NASDAQ. But the Dow Jones is also up in the positive territory, up 3.75%. And those are some of the major events that we've seen in the global markets. So now what's our outlook, right? We've talked about, okay, this is what we've seen in the first half of the year. What do we foresee in the second half of the year and so forth? So for Nigeria, right, we expect to see further currency depreciation as there are no clear signs of increased supply in the short term. So what does this mean? If you look at the chart to your left, you see the NAFEM and parallel interest rate, and the fact that the chart is going high tells you a depreciation story, right? Don't get deceived that as you're seeing that the chart is sloping upwards, you think that, okay, it means that Naira is appreciating. If you look at the figures there, it tells you that, okay, this is the conversion to a dollar. It's from around 900, it went from around 900 levels to currently around 1,500 levels. And why do we say we don't see, why do we say we see further currency depreciation? I know there was a period of time in this first half of the year where we saw that the Naira made some gains, and this was largely due to the CBN intervening in the market and selling its own dollars, right? It's not anything fundamental that really changed in the economy. So the CBN went to the market, sold dollars to your BDCs and the likes at discounted prices. So let me give you context. Let's say Naira was currently trading at 1,400 at that time. The CBN would have taken money to the market and sold at 1.2 to the Bureau de Change operators, so that they would sell it at discounted price. Now that kind of forced the Naira to crash down. But fundamentally, this is not sustainable. The CBN cannot keep on tapping into its own pockets to intentionally crash the dollar against the Naira. And why we say we don't see further currency depreciation, why we see further currency depreciation in the markets is largely due to the fact that there's nothing really fundamentally going on in the economy that would give you the implication that foreign investors or people would want to exchange Naira against the dollar, right? The dollar is going stronger because the US economy is moving strong, and we're not seeing things in place such as maybe increasing our exports or increasing our oil production by any significant amount that is going to make people want to bring in money into the Nigerian economy and exchange dollars for Naira, which would be the natural or organic, in quotes, way of improving your currency. So what other outlook do we have, right? Given the recent talks on the supplementary budgets, now not to get too technical, right, but towards the end of last year, the federal government had stated that they planned on borrowing over 27 trillion naira to finance expenditure this year. And now so far, we've seen them release a supplementary budget where they plan to borrow more than that. They plan to borrow an extra 9 trillion naira on top of the 27, essentially taking our number to 36 trillion naira that they want to borrow this year. And given that a means of borrowing that government uses is via your treasury bills or bonds. So if you buy treasury bills, you are basically giving the government money and they will give you back a return within a year, or with bonds over 1 year and the likes. So given the fact that so far we've seen that the government has only borrowed a little north of 8 trillion naira out of a 36 trillion naira budgets. We expect them to see more borrowings. And if you are borrowing in a high interest rate environment, we expect that the pressure would be on them to want to borrow on high interest rates, because as an investor now, I'm not going to, when I know that inflation is going as high as 3.95%, why would I give the money, why would I give the government money at a lower rate, right? I mean, this is still the case, but it's the fact that you're not going to want to collect 10% on your money. So the government has, in response to that hiking interest rates, also has to borrow at an elevated rate. And we're seeing yields in the treasury bill market hitting as high as 21% sometimes. If you look at the charts to your bottom left, you would see that the recent 364D auction, which is the primary market where they sell treasury bills, currently is closed at the stop rate. Stop rate is especially the interest rates that you get at 20.5%. So we expect that the government is going to borrow more at these levels, given that they have not borrowed up to their specified budgets. We also expect slight moderation in inflation level. So yes, this means that the rates at which you'll be crying for price increases would ebb, so it's slow down or it's calm down a bit. And this is largely because, like I said, we've seen the impact of high interest rates actually come into play in inflation, and we've seen that the rate at which inflation is even growing has kind of slowed. Before, we used to see an increase of 1%, 1% from month to month. But now we're seeing slower increases of maybe 49 basis points, that's 0.49%, or 29 basis points, that's 0.29%. And we expect to see this continue to slow and inflation to eventually come down because interest rates are remain elevated. Now, let's take our gaze to the global markets, right? So our global outlook is that the global markets will eventually recover. Like I said, we've seen inflation in the in other economies, not just in Nigeria. We're not the only ones that these demons, so to speak, are following. And we expect to see global macroeconomic recovery lead to strong performances in foreign markets, meaning that, yes, whilst the US market, equity market is doing well, we expect that this recovery will also offer some further bullish sentiment in the market. Bullish means optimistic, and people are more optimistic about the economy and are willing to invest more into that market. Because, I mean, over the last few quarters, we've seen even the Eurozone that which aims to give you a view of what Europe is doing. That's your UK, your Italy, your France, your Germany. What entered into a recession, which was characterized by 2 quarters of negative GDP growth rates. And we've seen that they have also picked up in fewer prints, with the Eurozone GDP currently sitting at 0.3%. That's growing at 0.3%. We're seeing the US GDP growing at 1.4%, and we're seeing China is also growing by 1.6%. So we expect to see more of this to take into place in the markets going into the second half of the year. And we expect that to also transition into the financial markets, where we see assets like your stocks, your bonds, your treasury bills, which are foreign, also pick up in value. So now we've said all of this. How can you use this to your own advantage, right? We've given you our outlook. What can you do to actually take advantage of this opportunity and win on your money? Let me use that word. So for first starting off, like I said about the currency depreciation, we would advise that you hedge against currency devaluation by investing in dollar-denominated assets. I mean, we should all be patriotic, in all honesty, but at the same time, you also have to protect your personal finance. And given what we're seeing, we believe that hedging against currency devaluation by investing in dollar-denominated assets would help you. What are these dollar-denominated assets, right? You have your stocks, you have your bonds, you have your placements, you have your savings in dollars, and this can all be accessed by you, because the funny thing about investing or finance in general is that there has been a continuous improvement in the sector, and we're seeing more democratization in the sector. Even with us in Zedcrest Wealth, right? We have you can save you can save your money in dollars on our Zedcrest Wealth app. You can put your money into our mutual funds, where we invest in dollar assets for you and give you a return on that assets via the mutual fund called the Zedcrest Dollar Fund. You have your target savings, your wealth box, and the likes. Another advantage is that you can take advantage of the stock markets, right? And for capital appreciation and dividends. So not just the US equity market, your stock market, that's your Nigerian stocks. Like we said, the oil and gas sector is doing well, the industrial sector is doing well. These are all good avenues for you to make money on your Naira, so that you don't lose to inflation, or they don't inflate your wealth away, and the value of your money is depreciating even though you're holding hard currency. So you can take advantage of the stock market for capital appreciation and dividends. Funny thing is that we'll soon be launching a stockbroking module on our app, which you can also take advantage of rather. You can also invest in treasury bills, as alluded to earlier in this presentation, and earn as high as 21% yield per annum, which is also, I mean, it might not be as high as your inflation, but it's also a good way to protect your money, because leaving your money in the bank, how much is your bank really giving you? Some of us might not even notice the change in what our bank balances are. You might just see the money there, nothing has been added to this thing, maybe like the 4% that they're giving you, right? You can invest money in treasury bills, protect your money, guard your money, show that you are also financially literate, and put your money in high yielding assets like treasury bills, which we also offer here at Zedcrest. Achieving your financial goals with the target savings plan. Like I think I said this earlier in the presentation, right? You can put target savings and save your money and gain more interest than you would get in your bank, where you're just locking it up. Your bank is using it to loan to the public, but they're not really giving you anything. Basically, they're giving you peanuts compared to what you would get from a normal or a better savings plan. You can also consult an investment manager, which is we coincidentally coincides with what we do also here at Zedcrest Wealth, right? To create a portfolio for you. So, I mean, we all have different risk appetites. Someone that is 80 something years old and someone that is 20 something would not have the same portfolio, right? Because the amount of risk that an 80-year-old can take is less than the amount of risk that a 20 something year old can take, right? And it will be good advice for you to speak to an investment manager, let them know what your assets are, your liabilities are, how much money you are going to need, what's your liquidity looking like, and how should they create a portfolio that has the perfect risk appetite that is tailored to your needs while still generating optimal returns for your portfolio. I mean, there are other avenues that you can also seek to, and if you're looking for any avenue that you don't see on this screen, you can also consult your wealth manager to tell them that, okay, I don't want to go through this route, but I also want to make some money protecting my assets, and we will do something for you. So we've come to the halftime of this presentation, and funny, there is a very good tournament that is currently being created. You have the link on Zedcrest Wealth app, where you can win free prizes, right? So you have the likes of gifts on child deck rather, sorry, and boats. You have free tickets for those. You can also learn more about your financial literacy, because I mean, what do we all know about financial literacy, and we all claim to know about financial literacy, but how much do we really know? And how much of our personal finance do we really guard and do we really protect? So we've come to the section of this where we would ask questions or get questions from the audience, and anyone that has, it does not have to be anything that's even related to the slide. You just want to ask something about your own personal finance that you would like to learn about. You can just type it in the comments, and we would get that going. Any questions? Come on now. Am I safe to assume that everybody has all they need from personal finance? They don't have any questions about what the market is looking like, what they expect from the markets, what is going to go on, what should they do? I mean, as we're waiting for questions, I can also talk about our Treasury Bills feature, which would soon be launched on the Zedcrest Wealth app, and you would have first time asked. Okay, we have a question from Mr. Emerua. Will the Nigerian capital market get better or worse? Okay, that's an interesting question, and it's a good question to even ask. So looking at the capital market, right, we're seeing that this is a time of good opportunity, because let's start with the fixed income space. We're seeing yields on assets reach all-time highs, right? Previously, I mean, I have bosses who are talking about how they haven't seen as high as 20% on the treasury bill. Like even when you see 15%, it's you thank God that you're seeing that high return. So as of right now, like it's a very, very good space to enter because we're seeing yields on investment assets which are as high as 20%, some on bonds which are as high as 20% in the latest auction, 2018, 19 percent. And that essentially means that that's a very, very good return because these are new, this is a new, what's the word now? We're in new times, let me use that word, where yields on assets are very, very high. We're seeing that these are very, very good levels to enter into the market and lock in your gains. So it's not as if when we see the central bank starting to cut rates and interest rates starts to drop, and you're seeing yields on assets start to come down towards 15%, 10%, you now be like, I should have entered when it was 20%. These are very, very good opportunities. I mean, yes, we could still see it higher, but if you remember our forecast, we don't see inflation growing at a quicker pace than the way it is now. And we're seeing it continue to grow slower, and we expect it to sort of calm down. So given that, we do think that this is a very, very good time to get in before the Nigerian Central Bank starts to cut rates and we see interest rates start to drop. So given the fixed income space, yes, I would say that. Also looking at equities, right? I mean, if we expect to see a cut in rates, we do expect that businesses that are in the equity market will be able to borrow money at cheaper rates. So when you go to the bank, you don't have to borrow money at a very, very high rate because that's what the central bank is saying. When they start to cut rates, we'll be like, okay, yes, money is now cheaper for some of these businesses to borrow. I mean, picking the business is a different thing where you should consult your investment professional. But I mean, the equity market, we also see some underlying opportunity there for investors to get in, make some gains and get out eventually. Okay, from Omolola, you mentioned that we can convert to dollar to hedge on our investment, but doesn't this put pressure on the naira currency and cause further devaluation, which in turn can cause a rapid hike in inflation? Yes, this is a very, very good point to raise. And yes, you can convert to dollar and to hedge your investments. But like you said, doesn't this put pressure on the naira currency and cause further devaluation, which in turn can cause a rapid hike in inflation? So you now looking at your own personal finance, do you want to lose out on that inflation, right? So your country, Nigeria, is having this hike in inflation and you're just holding naira and the value of your naira is dropping when you're looking at it being converted to dollar. So looking at personal finance now, as an individual that is looking to invest and protect my money, my moolah, my legal tender, I would say that I should put money in dollar because it essentially means that I'm betting on the dollar. I'm betting on the US economy to do better than the Nigerian economy in the short term, largely because we're not seeing any way for the Nigerian economy to improve or enhance inflows of dollar in the economy as of right now. We're not seeing anything that's going to improve our dollar earnings. We've seen that our external reserves, that's essentially the money that the central bank has in dollars, has depleted by over $1 billion so far this year. Currently sits at $34 billion. And even sometime in April, it hit all-time, 6-year lows rather. So it was lowest point in 6 years. And this trend will most likely continue because we're not seeing any increased way of the Nigerian economy or Nigeria earning more dollar or getting people to convert their dollars to naira. So you as an individual, you should consider hedging your risk on that front of holding naira and putting some of your assets or converting some of your assets to dollar denominated assets so that you can make money on them whilst the Nigeria economy is facing what it's facing right now. So are there any other questions? I'm enjoying the questions that I'm getting, very insightful and also causing to share some enlightenments on the topic. Oh yeah, and as I was saying before, the questions started coming in also. I mean, we'll still launch the Treasury Bills feature on our app, and there will be a link in the it's a waitlist link that will be dropped in the chat so that you can get first-time exclusive access to this feature. You can take advantage of it when it launches. I mean, like I said, the opportunity is there. 21% on a Treasury Bill instrument is in unknown territory, right? And this is like, wow, you can get this high on a fixed income asset, which is essentially deemed risk-free because it is backed by the full faith of the Nigerian government. So, I mean, if someone is going to borrow you money at 20%, 21% rather, wouldn't you take it? The current prevailing environment. Any more questions? maybe we'll just give like 3 more minutes to 3:45, then we'll move on with the presentation and get to the tournaments where you can win prizes. Very exciting prizes, if I might add. Because with the price at which I'm seeing some boat rides these days, paying over 15K for a ride. What's going on in the economy now? Okay. So moving on, are you financially literate, which is the goal of the test or the tournament rather? I mean, only 26% of Nigerian population is financially literate. Some think they are because they went to school, but that might not be so true. And if we're really financially literate, then why have we lost over 300 billion naira to Ponzi schemes over the last 5 years? So how well do you know your money, right? I think the link is going to be shared or has been shared already to the chats, and you can get on the Zedcrest Wealth app and start tournaments where you can win as free rides and meals or boats or a child deck on the app. Stop. Just close it. Let me use. Okay. Start my music. Okay. So the tournament, actually, the link is not going to be on the chats. So for those that already have the Zedcrest Wealth app, you can go into the Zedcrest Wealth app and join the tournament there. It will start in 5 minutes, but you can join the waiting list. I saw someone's hand up. Let me just try to see if I can. I think Simi, right? What similar? Okay, can you type your inquiry in the chat or your inquiry in chat? What similar? Okay, so someone said they can't see the tournament. The name of the tournament is Zedcrest Digital Meets Up, right? Okay. Eh? Yeah. Someone was asking, I don't think my mic. Okay, so for those who cannot see, yes, okay, I had even that will see the question. How do I get there? I would share my screen to show us how we can access it via the app. So share screen. I broadcast in 3, 2, 1. Okay. So you go to the Zedcrest Wealth app, which you see here. You're seeing tournaments just below Save and Invest. You click on it, right? So when you click on it, you see Quick Fire Quiz. When you click on Quick Fire Quiz, the first thing you see is your Zedcrest Digital Meetup. When you click on that, you will see Continue at the bottom. When you click on Continue, you're seeing that the tournament has already even started. So you can quickly just join in. I think I'll stop sharing my screen now because I want to be free ride on board, and I don't want to share my answers with anybody. So yeah.
So is anyone here? How will we be navigate to the tournament? I don't understand how to.
Okay, so Oluwatimilei, is it that you can't access or is not working?
Navigate to the tournament.
Can you say that again?
I said I can't get the navigation to the tournament. Can you help me drop the information in the chat box or something so that I could navigate, or you should explain how to navigate to the tournament?
Oh, okay. Okay. So just give me a minute. Let me speak with the tech teams to figure out what's going on there. Okay, so I'll share my screen. I'll share my screen again to give more. Okay. Okay, so I'll share my screen again so we can all see how to quickly access the tournament. But it would soon close. I think we have about 3 minutes left, but just so we can all still enter, and I'll try to be slow at this time. Okay. A minute left. Okay, I think as of now, you will know how to compete with them and join the app. So just looking at my screen, which would be projected now. So I'll show the winners. I'll show the winners after I show how to navigate the application. So yeah, it's loading. Okay. So when you go to your application, when you go to our application, you go to the tournament, which you can see under Save and Invest. You click on it, right? You click on, I think the winners have already started recognizing themselves. You click on it, you see the quick fire quiz, which is the first thing in the tournament dashboard. You click on the quick fire quiz. I mean, we're not seeing the tournament again, but to see the past tournaments, you see at the top of your screen, you see all tournaments or my tournaments. These all tournaments are tournaments that have not yet been coming to play, but you can still register for them. But when you click on my tournaments, right, you will see sorry, you have to look for it. It's a load. Okay. But it will come up here, ideally, and you see the okay, you're seeing, like I said, the Finance Fridays. This is the past one that was done on March 1st, and you see more of them, January 19 and the likes. But as for the winners of the tournaments, we have, for third position goes to PJ, the second goes to Titi Fawumit, and Ihioma takes first position with 22 Zedcrest won. So congratulations to the winners. Your gifts will be contacted, or will contact with you via mail or call to share your free meals and vouchers and the likes. So in the absence of any further questions, I mean, okay, yes, the special announcements which I've already So congratulations to the winners. I see some people already congratulating themselves in the chats and the likes. I mean, the special announcements, right? We've already spoken about it. Is that the Treasury bill is that the Treasury bill yes, is that the Treasury bill and commercial paper feature is coming to the Zedcrest Wealth application. And on this, like we spoke about, is a good way for you to protect your money. And for those who don't know what commercial papers are, it's just a way for private companies, or not just private and public companies, to borrow money from the public within 1 year and pay you back. And you can access between yields of as high as 16 to 28% on Zedcrest both through these assets or other investment products. And there will be a link in the chat to share interest on these features like I spoke about. I mean, you can get first-time access, first-time exclusive access, if I might add, to this new feature, and you can click on it to be able to join the early waiting list. And once we launch, you would be one of the first people to know and take advantage of the high interest that you can get on the application. So thank you. This has been a very, very insightful and enlightening session, and I appreciate every single one of you that's taken out the time to learn more and to join the club. And hopefully the next time we meet, we'll all be billionaires. and yeah. Okay, is there I'm seeing a question from Timile. Right? Timmy, your hand has been up. So can you type your question in the chat? Timile. Okay, you're taking it down. Okay, so in the absence of any further comments or questions, I mean, this has been a very, very good session, and we hope to see you in next quarter rather. But we hope to see more of your engagements on the app. And next time we meet, we should all be billionaires, hopefully, and we'll have fun. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.